The cold wind of the evening whipped through the city streets, carrying the scent of rain as the world bustled with the usual pace of the wealthy. In a brightly lit corner, where tall buildings towered over the humble pedestrians, a young black girl stood, clutching a small, worn backpack. Her shoes were scuffed, her clothes were too big for her, but her gaze was steady and determined. She wasn't lost or afraid, but she was waiting, standing quietly by the grand gates of a mansion, as if she knew something that no one else did. The noise of the city faded around her as her soft whisper broke the silence, cutting through the air like a razor. "I don't need money. I just need a hug like Mom and Dad's." Her words were barely a breath, but they carried a weight that seemed to halt time. The security guard by the gate didn't hear her, nor did the passerby who barely spared her a glance. But in the grand house behind those gates, something shifted. Inside, a billionaire sat at a grand dinner table, his thoughts occupied by meetings and investments. But the moment her words reached his ears, everything else seemed to fade. He froze, a fork halfway to his mouth, the room suddenly filled with an eerie stillness. The billionaire's eyes widened as the soft sound of her voice echoed in his mind. His mind raced as he stood, unable to focus on anything but the feeling that this moment was somehow important. There was something about her, a small girl in tattered clothes who had just shaken him to his core with words so simple yet filled with a longing he had never understood. He didn't know her story, but in that brief moment, he realized she wasn't like the other children he had seen. She wasn't asking for riches, or even a chance to enter his world of luxury. She was asking for something that, in his wealth, he had forgotten how to give: a simple, human connection. He walked toward the window, his eyes scanning the streets below, trying to find her, but she had disappeared into the night, leaving behind nothing but a lingering thought in his mind. The city seemed colder now, as if her words had turned the warmth of his mansion into a reminder of everything he had been missing. The girl, with nothing but a backpack and a whisper, had moved him in a way no business deal ever had. His heart clenched as he stared out into the darkness. He didn't know it yet, but this encounter would change everything. The next morning, the billionaire sat at his desk, the city skyline spread out before him. But his thoughts were elsewhere. Her voice lingered in his mind, echoing against the quiet hum of his office. "I don't need money. I just need a hug like Mom and Dad's." He had never before been so affected by a stranger's words. He had spent his life building an empire, creating a world where wealth was the answer to every problem, yet her simple request had shaken him in ways he couldn't quite explain. He could still see her small, standing alone in the cold, clutching her worn-out backpack. It wasn't the desperation in her eyes that had caught him off guard. It was the calm, the quiet strength she exuded. His world of luxury and influence seemed so distant now, irrelevant in the face of something so raw, so human. He couldn't get her out of his mind. That afternoon, he found himself in a rare moment of indecision. Meetings came and went, but his thoughts kept returning to her. He knew he had to do something. He couldn't just forget her. He had everything money could buy, yet there was an emptiness, a void that he had never addressed until now. His assistant knocked, bringing him back to reality. "Sir, the board is waiting in the conference room." He nodded absently and stood, but his mind was far away. He couldn't focus. As he walked through the polished hallways of his mansion, the thought of her lingered. That night, he found himself walking the streets near his office, a decision forming in his mind. He couldn't just ignore what she had said, and he couldn't continue to live in a world where wealth was the solution to everything. He needed to find her. He needed to know her story. The rain had started again, a fine mist hanging in the air, as he walked down the same street where he had first heard her words. The city was quieter now, the noise of the day replaced by the soft hum of traffic. His heart beat a little faster as he neared the spot where she had stood the night before. He looked around, but there was no sign of her. No girl with a backpack. Just the usual passers-by, wrapped in their own worlds. He stopped and stared, as though expecting her to appear out of nowhere, as if she had been a figment of his imagination. But deep down, he knew she was real. He had heard her, and now, he needed to find her. As he stood there, staring at the empty street, a voice broke the silence. "You came back." He spun around, his breath catching in his chest. There she was, standing in the same spot, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her expression calm but watchful. She hadn't changed since the night before. The small, quiet girl with eyes that seemed to see through him. "I thought you wouldn't come," she said. Her voice soft, almost uncertain. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city seemed to hold its breath. The billionaire cleared his throat, unsure of what to say, but his words came out in a rush. I heard you. I couldn't stop thinking about you." He paused, watching her closely, waiting for a reaction. "Why did you say that?" The girl shrugged, her gaze not leaving his. "Because it's true." She took a step closer, her eyes never wavering. "I don't need money. I just need someone to care." Her words were simple, but they struck him like a thunderbolt. The billionaire felt something stir within him, something he hadn't felt in years, a deep, aching need to connect, to be human again. He had built his wealth on the backs of others, surrounded by yes-men and advisors who told him what he wanted to hear. But this girl, this little girl, was different. She didn't care about his wealth or his power. She just wanted someone to see her, to hear her. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was seeing her, too. He knelt down to her level, the rain falling softly around them. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Anna," she said, her voice steady but still carrying the weight of her past. "Anna," he repeated, as though tasting the name. He wanted to know more. He wanted to understand her, to make things right in a world that had failed her. But he also knew he couldn't solve everything with money. He stood up, looking at her. "I don't have all the answers, Anna, but I want to help. I want to make sure you're okay." She studied him for a moment, as if weighing his words. Then, without a word, she turned and began walking away. He followed her, keeping a safe distance, unsure of where this path would lead. As they walked, he realized that this wasn't about him offering her something. It was about what she had already given him a chance to feel something real again. The rain had started to fall heavier, creating ripples in the puddles on the sidewalk as Anna walked ahead. The billionaire, still following a few paces behind, was no longer concerned with the rush of his day or the endless business meetings that filled his schedule. Instead, his thoughts were solely on her, this little girl who had somehow opened his eyes to everything he had taken for granted. He watched as she moved swiftly through the streets, her pace quickening despite the weather, as though she was used to the cold and the discomfort. She wasn't looking for shelter or a place to hide, but simply a way to keep moving forward, even in the harshest conditions. He felt a pang of guilt in his chest. She was so young, yet so hardened by life. She had endured more in her few years than he had in his entire life. He quickened his pace to catch up with her. "Anna," he called softly. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "Where are we going?" he asked, not wanting to push but genuinely wanting to understand. She stopped walking for a moment, her eyes scanning the street ahead before she spoke, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. "Home," she said, and then continued walking. The billionaire followed, a new sense of purpose settling in his chest. He didn't know where her home was, but he was determined to find out. He had to help her. He didn't know how, but he knew he couldn't just turn around and walk away. Anna led him through several winding streets, the city's bright lights gradually fading as they ventured into quieter, more run-down neighborhoods. The streets here were narrower, the buildings older, their facades worn down by time and neglect. The contrast to the pristine luxury of his own world was stark. He had never ventured into these areas of the city, had never felt the raw, gritty reality that people like Anna had to navigate daily. As they walked, he began to notice the little details: cracked windows, peeling paint, trash piled up on the corners. It was a far cry from the polished marble floors and gleaming glass windows he was used to. His heart grew heavier with every step. They finally reached a small, dilapidated building at the edge of the neighborhood. The walls were chipped, and the door was barely hanging on its hinges. Anna stopped in front of it, turning to him. "This is where I live," she said quietly. The billionaire felt a lump form in his throat. He looked at the building, then back at Anna, who stood there, her gaze unwavering. He could see the resilience in her eyes, but he also saw the fatigue. The world had worn her down, and yet, she hadn't given up. "Do you have anyone here? A family?" he asked, his voice soft. Anna hesitated before answering. My mom used to live here, she said. She's not around anymore. It's just me now. The billionaire's chest tightened. He looked at the small building again, knowing it could barely be called a home. It was just 4 walls, a roof, and a cold, empty space where a child had to grow up alone. He felt a surge of anger, not at Anna, but at the world. How could someone so young be left to fend for herself like this? How had it come to this? I don't want to be a burden, Anna added quickly, noticing his silence. I don't need anything. I can take care of myself. The billionaire could hear the pride in her voice, but he also heard the weariness. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. No, Anna, he said, stepping closer to her. You don't need to do this alone. She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. What do you mean? She asked, a slight frown on her face. The billionaire paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. I mean, I want to help you, he said, his voice steady but filled with conviction. I know I can't fix everything, but I can make sure you don't have to live like this anymore. He could see the skepticism in her eyes, the doubt. It was a look he had seen countless times in his life when people didn't believe in the kindness of others. You don't need to trust me right away, he continued, but I want to offer you something more than just money. I want to offer you a chance to be a kid again, a chance to not have to worry about what's next. Anna remained silent for a moment, her gaze fixed on the ground. He could tell she was weighing his words, trying to decide if she could believe him. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Why would you want to help me? She asked, looking up at him with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. The billionaire's heart swelled, and he crouched down to her level. Because, he said, his voice soft, yet firm, you deserve it. You deserve a chance to be happy, to feel safe, and to not have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Anna didn't say anything for a long time. She just stared at him, her expression unreadable. The rain continued to fall, but in that moment, it felt as if everything had paused, as if the world was waiting for her answer. Finally, she nodded, just slightly. Okay, she said quietly. I'll trust you. The billionaire smiled, relief flooding his chest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. It was a beginning. And he knew that whatever happened next, he was no longer walking alone. He was walking with her. The next day, the billionaire arrived at the small, run-down building where Anna lived. The rain had stopped, but the streets still glistened from the morning showers, the city slowly coming to life. He stood in front of the building, staring up at its cracked walls, the peeling paint, and the small windows that looked like they hadn't been cleaned in years. He felt a pang of discomfort in his chest. How had a child like Anna been left to live in a place like this? He couldn't answer that, but he was determined to change it. Anna wasn't home when he arrived, but he knew where to find her. As he walked through the neighborhood, he began to see more of the world Anna had known her entire life. The streets were narrow and lined with broken fences, abandoned cars, and empty storefronts. The contrast to his own world of glass and steel was jarring. He had grown up in privilege, never having to think about these kinds of places. But now, standing here, everything seemed different. He felt a deep sense of guilt, a reminder of how disconnected he had been from the struggles of others. Anna appeared an hour later, walking toward him from around the corner. She had her backpack slung over one shoulder, her face a little tired, but still determined. She smiled when she saw him, but it was a small, guarded smile. "You're here early," she said, not meeting his eyes. "I thought I'd come by and check on you," he replied, his voice soft, a little unsure. "I wanted to see how you're doing." She shrugged. "I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me." The billionaire watched her for a moment, trying to read her expression. He knew she was tough, but there was something in her eyes that told him she wasn't fine. "I don't want to worry about you, Anna," he said quietly. "I just want to help." Anna looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether or not to believe him. Then, without a word, she turned and started walking toward the building. He followed her, keeping a few steps behind. As they reached the front door, Anna paused and looked back at him. "You don't have to come in," she said. "I don't want you to see it." He could hear the hesitation in her voice. "I'm not here to judge, Anna," he said gently. "I just want to make sure you're okay." She didn't say anything more, just opened the door and stepped inside. The billionaire followed her into the small apartment. It was dimly lit, the air heavy with the smell of dampness and old furniture. The floorboards creaked beneath his feet as he looked around, taking in the sparse furnishings: a worn-out couch, a small wooden table, a few mismatched chairs. The walls were covered with peeling wallpaper, and the windows were covered with cheap curtains that let in little light. It was a place that spoke of neglect, a place where survival, not comfort, was the priority. Anna walked over to the couch and sat down, her backpack slipping off her shoulder as she did. The billionaire stood by the door, unsure of what to do next. He had seen the world of the rich, the luxurious penthouses, the private jets, the sprawling estates, but nothing had prepared him for this. "I know it's not much," Anna said quietly, breaking the silence, "but it's mine. It's all I have." The billionaire nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. He had never truly known what it meant to struggle, to fight for every little thing. He had always had everything handed to him. But Anna, she had fought for every moment of peace, every bit of comfort in this little apartment. "You don't have to stay here, Anna," he said after a long pause. "You don't have to live like this." She looked up at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. The billionaire hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I mean, I can help. I can offer you a better life. You deserve better than this. You deserve a home where you don't have to worry every day about how you're going to survive." Anna shook her head, a small frown on her face. "I don't need your charity," she said firmly. "I'm fine on my own." The billionaire felt his heart sink. He knew she was proud, but he also knew she didn't have to do everything by herself. "It's not charity," he said quietly. "It's an opportunity. I want to give you a chance, Anna. A chance to live a life that isn't defined by struggle and fear. A chance to go to school, to be a kid again, to have a future." Anna looked at him for a long time, her face unreadable. The silence stretched between them, heavy and tense. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but resolute. "I don't know if I can trust you," she said. "I've been let down by so many people before. Why should you be any different?" The billionaire felt a wave of empathy wash over him. He couldn't blame her for being cautious. He had seen people fail her time and time again, and he knew that gaining her trust wouldn't be easy. "I understand," he said quietly. "But I want to prove to you that I'm different. I want to help, not because I feel sorry for you, but because I believe in you. I believe you deserve more." Anna remained silent for a long moment, staring at him with a mixture of uncertainty and hope in her eyes. Finally, she nodded, just barely, as if allowing herself to believe for the first time that someone might actually care. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll trust you, but you have to promise me something." The billionaire leaned forward, eager to hear what she had to say. "Promise me," she said, "that you won't give up on me." He smiled gently, a sense of relief flooding through him. "I promise," he said, his voice steady. "I won't give up on you." And in that moment, as Anna's hesitant smile finally reached her eyes, the billionaire knew that this was only the beginning of something much bigger than either of them had anticipated. The next few days passed in a blur for both Anna and the billionaire. He had kept his promise, checking in on her, making sure she was safe, and, more importantly, giving her the space to feel heard. The apartment she lived in had stayed the same cracked walls, cold floors, and the same worn-out furniture. But now, there was a shift. Anna had allowed him into her world, and she had begun to trust him, even if just a little. Each day, he saw small changes in her. Her smile, though still reserved, was a little warmer. Her posture, which had been so guarded, became a little less defensive. And when they spoke, there was less hesitation in her voice. It wasn't much, but it was something. One evening, the billionaire arrived at Anna's building with a car waiting outside. He knocked on the door and waited, his hands slightly trembling, not out of nervousness but because he knew this was a turning point. Anna opened the door, her face brightening when she saw him. "Hi," she said, her tone lighter than before. "Hi," he replied, smiling. "Ready for an adventure?" Anna raised an eyebrow, glancing at the car. "What do you mean?" "I thought we could do something different today," he said, stepping into the doorway. "How about we go somewhere? Anywhere you want." Anna hesitated, her gaze flicking to the floor. "I don't know," she said. uncertainty creeping back into her voice. "I'm not really used to, you know, leaving." "It's okay," he said gently. "We don't have to go far. Just somewhere you can relax, feel safe, and not have to worry for once." She looked up at him, her face softening. For a moment, he saw a glimpse of the carefree child she had once been. She had been so used to fending for herself, to living with constant fear and worry. But in that brief moment, he could see the potential for something more. "Okay," she said quietly, almost as if testing the idea, but only for a little while. "Of course," he said, holding out his hand. "Just for a little while." They left the apartment and got into the car. As they drove, Anna looked out the window, her eyes scanning the city streets as they passed by. The billionaire could sense her quiet curiosity, but he also saw the faint flicker of unease in her expression. She had been through so much, and now, for the first time in her life, she was allowed to experience something different, something better. They didn't go to a fancy restaurant or a luxurious resort. Instead, they drove to a quiet park on the outskirts of the city, far away from the hustle and bustle. The park was peaceful, with tall trees lining the walking paths and a small lake in the center. It was a place that felt untouched by the chaos of the world. As they stepped out of the car, Anna inhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxing as she took in the fresh air. It was different here. The noise, the rush, the constant pressure, it was all gone. They walked along the path, the billionaire keeping a respectful distance, giving Anna space to take in the surroundings. He didn't want to push her. This was her time, her chance to breathe. After a few moments of walking, Anna stopped by the lake, watching the ducks glide across the water. "This is nice," she said quietly, her voice soft, almost in awe. The billionaire smiled, relieved to see her so at ease. "I thought you might like it." "I never really get to go places like this," Anna said, her voice thoughtful. "I mean, I see places like this in the movies, but I never thought I'd actually be here." The billionaire stopped beside her, looking out over the water as well. "I'm glad you're here," he said sincerely. "You deserve to experience peace, Anna. You deserve to enjoy your life, not just survive it." Anna looked up at him, her eyes meeting his for the first time that day. There was a moment of silence between them, a quiet understanding that passed through the air. She nodded slowly, a faint smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Thanks," she said, "for this, for everything." The billionaire's heart swelled with emotion. "You don't need to thank me," he said, his voice thick with sincerity. "I'm just doing what anyone should do." "Not everyone would," Anna replied, her voice quiet but full of meaning. She turned back to the lake, watching the ducks again, her expression pensive. "You've done more for me than anyone ever has." The billionaire stood beside her for a while, letting the peaceful silence settle between them. He didn't know what the future held for either of them, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to give up on her. He had promised her that, and he intended to keep it. The sun began to set, casting a warm golden light across the park. It was the kind of sunset that made everything feel still, peaceful, and hopeful. Anna stood there, watching it, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't worried about what was going to happen next. She wasn't thinking about the struggles she had faced or the hardships she had endured. She was simply there, in the moment, free from the weight of the world. And for that, the billionaire was grateful. They sat together on a bench by the lake, watching the sunset in silence, knowing that they had both taken the first steps toward something new, something better. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be challenges ahead. But for now, in that peaceful park, with the sun setting behind them, there was hope. And that was enough. The next few days were filled with small steps, each one bringing Anna closer to a life she had never known, a life where she didn't have to fend for herself, where she could actually feel safe and cared for. The billionaire had kept his promise to her. He had offered her more than just a place to stay. He had given her the freedom to be a child again, something she had forgotten how to be after so many years of struggle. She had been hesitant at first, but with each passing day, she had started to trust him more. She had started to believe in the possibility that life could be different. Anna's new life didn't happen overnight. There were moments of doubt, of fear. She still had the scars of her past, the memories of a life that had been so cruel. But slowly, she allowed herself to open up. It was a rainy afternoon when the billionaire invited her to spend the day with him. "We're going to visit someone special today," he told her as they drove through the city. "I thought you might enjoy it." Anna looked out the window, the city passing by in a blur of color. She wasn't sure what to expect, but for the first time in her life, she was actually excited to see what lay ahead. They arrived at a large building, its tall windows gleaming in the afternoon light. Anna followed the billionaire inside, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never been to a place like this before. The walls were lined with beautiful paintings, and the floors were made of polished wood that gleamed under the soft light. Everything about this place felt foreign to her, and yet, she couldn't help but feel a sense of calm wash over her. The billionaire led her through the halls, past rooms filled with luxurious furniture, until they arrived at a large, open room with a fireplace crackling in the corner. Sitting by the fire was an elderly woman, her white hair neatly styled, her eyes sharp and kind. She looked up as they entered, and a warm smile spread across her face. "Ah, you must be Anna," the woman said in a soft, gentle voice. "It's so lovely to finally meet you." Anna stood still for a moment, unsure of what to say. The billionaire had spoken of this woman before someone important, someone who had played a role in his life, but she hadn't expected this kind of welcome. "Hello," Anna said quietly, feeling shy but also curious. "I've heard so much about you," the elderly woman said, her eyes twinkling. "You're much braver than I ever was at your age." Anna wasn't sure how to respond to that. She had never considered herself brave. She had simply done what she had to do to survive. But as she looked at this woman so graceful, so calm, she realized that there was something to be said for the kind of life that didn't require constant fighting. The billionaire smiled, his hand resting gently on Anna's shoulder. "I thought you two should meet," he said. "You're both strong in your own way. You can learn a lot from each other." The elderly woman nodded, her gaze fixed on Anna. "Life can be tough, but it's important to remember that kindness, generosity, and love will always win in the end," she said, her voice steady and warm. "You've been through so much, my dear, but you have a heart full of promise. Never forget that." Anna felt a lump form in her throat. She had never heard anyone speak to her like that before. It was as though this woman could see straight into her soul, past the walls she had built to protect herself. "Thank you," Anna said, her voice barely above a whisper. The elderly woman smiled again, her eyes softening. "You're welcome, my dear, and remember, you have a family now. You're never alone." The words hit Anna harder than she expected. She had spent so many years feeling isolated, alone in the world. But here, in this moment, surrounded by warmth and kindness, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Later that evening, after saying goodbye to the elderly woman, the billionaire drove Anna back to her new home. As they passed through the streets, the city lights sparkling in the distance, Anna couldn't help but think about the woman's words. "You're never alone." It was a simple phrase, but it carried so much weight. Anna had never really known what it was like to have people who cared about her, who would stand by her no matter what. But now, she was starting to understand. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was someone who was worthy of love, of care, of a future. The billionaire glanced over at Anna as they drove, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "How do you feel?" he asked. Anna turned to him, her eyes meeting his for the first time that day. She smiled, a real smile, one that reached her eyes. "I feel like I belong," she said softly, "like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be." The billionaire's heart swelled with pride. This was what he had hoped for. This was why he had made the decision to help her in the first place, to give her the chance to find herself, to find a place where she could finally feel like she mattered. As they drove through the city, the lights flickering around them, the future seemed bright. For Anna, and for him, everything was just beginning. The following weeks unfolded like a delicate dance, each day building upon the last. Anna began to thrive in ways that neither she nor the billionaire had expected. Her once guarded demeanor softened, and she started to show glimpses of the carefree child she had once been before life had demanded so much from her. She was attending school again, with the billionaire ensuring she had everything she needed: books, supplies, and even extra tutoring when she struggled with certain subjects. For the first time, she was given the space to be a kid, to learn, and to grow without the weight of constant survival on her shoulders. But despite the progress, The billionaire knew that the road ahead wasn't going to be easy for Anna. Her past was something that wouldn't be erased with the kindness he had shown her. She had spent so many years learning to take care of herself that trusting others was still a challenge for her. One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden of the mansion, Anna spoke about her past in a way she hadn't before. She was sitting on a bench by the flower beds, her hands clasped in her lap as she looked out at the sprawling grounds, the peaceful atmosphere contrasting with the intensity of the conversation. "I never really thought I'd get a chance like this," she said, her voice soft, almost hesitant. The billionaire sat beside her, his eyes fixed on her, his expression one of quiet understanding. "A chance for what?" he asked gently. Anna looked down at the ground, as if searching for the right words. "A chance to just be," she said slowly. "I was always worried about what would happen next. I didn't think there was ever going to be a place where I could just feel safe, you know? Where I didn't have to worry about everything." The billionaire felt a pang in his chest as he listened to her words. He knew she had been through so much, more than any child should ever have to endure. He reached over and placed a hand on hers, offering a silent comfort. "I know, Anna," he said quietly. "I know." There was a long silence between them, filled only by the rustling of the leaves in the breeze. For the first time, the billionaire understood the depth of what Anna had endured. She had spent her childhood navigating a world that had never been kind to her. She had learned to survive, but in doing so, she had lost something essential, the ability to simply live. Anna sighed softly, then looked up at him, her expression a mixture of vulnerability and strength. "Sometimes I still think I'm going to wake up and everything will go back to how it was," she said. "That I'll have to go back to that life, that I'll have to keep fighting just to keep going." The billionaire could hear the fear in her voice, the lingering doubt that, despite everything, she still wasn't fully convinced that her life had truly changed. "That's not going to happen," he said firmly. "You're not going back to that life, Anna. You're not alone anymore. You have a future now." Anna looked at him for a moment, her eyes searching his face. "But what if I mess it up?" she asked, the words heavy with uncertainty. "What if I'm not enough?" The billionaire felt a deep sorrow for her, for the fact that she had ever believed she wasn't enough. "You are more than enough," he said gently. "You've always been enough. You've just never had someone to remind you of that before. But now, you do. You're capable of so much, Anna, and I'm here, every step of the way, to help you." She stayed silent for a moment, as if absorbing his words. Then, she nodded, a small but significant shift in her demeanor. "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'll try." The billionaire smiled, his heart swelling with pride. It wasn't a perfect solution. There was no magical fix for the scars of her past, but in that moment, Anna had taken the first step toward believing in herself, toward allowing herself to see the future not as something to fear, but as something to embrace. Later that evening, as they sat together at the dinner table, Anna looked around at the warm, welcoming space that had become her home. She wasn't used to it, the luxury, the abundance, but tonight, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. After dinner, the billionaire walked with her outside, both of them looking up at the stars. It was a simple moment, but it was a reminder that there was a world outside of struggle, outside of fear. For once, Anna could just be no pressures, no expectations, just the quiet beauty of the night around them. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice full of sincerity, "for everything. For not giving up on me." The billionaire looked down at her, his eyes soft with emotion. "I told you I wouldn't," he said, "and I never will." In that moment, Anna understood something that she had never fully grasped before. She was worthy of love, of kindness, of a future that wasn't defined by her past. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she could actually have it. The billionaire stood beside her, watching the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning of something beautiful, a journey of healing, of trust, and of a life that Anna had only begun to imagine. As the weeks passed, Anna continued to settle into her new life, finding comfort in the stability the billionaire had given her. It wasn't perfect, and there were moments when she would retreat into herself, the weight of her past threatening to resurface. But the billionaire was always there, a steady presence in her life. He didn't push her, didn't demand that she forget everything that had happened to her, but he made it clear that she was safe, that she was allowed to grow, to change. It was a slow process, but Anna was learning to trust, learning to believe that the world wasn't just a place where she had to survive, it was a place where she could thrive. One day, as they were sitting in the living room, the billionaire turned to her, his expression serious yet kind. "Anna," he began, "I've been thinking about something. We've talked about your future a lot, and I want to make sure you have every opportunity to pursue it. I've arranged for you to visit a few universities, to see what's out there." Anna looked up at him, her eyes wide with surprise. "A university?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "But I don't have the grades. I don't know if I could get in." The billionaire smiled softly, shaking his head. "You don't have to worry about that right now," he said. "I've made sure that you'll have the chance to meet with the right people, to see what's possible. What matters is that you're willing to try, that you're open to learning and growing." Anna's heart raced as she processed his words. A university? That had never seemed like something within her reach. She had always been told that education was a luxury, something only for those who could afford it. But here she was, being given the opportunity to dream beyond the walls of her old life. "But I don't even know where to start," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know what I want to study, or what I want to do with my life." The billionaire looked at her with understanding. "It's okay not to know yet," he said. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now. But you do have the chance to explore, to try different things, to find your passion. That's what this is all about, finding your path, not rushing to make decisions." Anna nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. This was a chance, a real chance, to create a future she had never imagined for herself. And yet, she still carried the doubts, the fear that she wasn't worthy of such an opportunity, that she would mess it all up. But the billionaire had shown her, time and time again, that she didn't have to do it alone. "I want you to know something, Anna," the billionaire continued, his voice gentle but firm. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of how far you've come, and I'm proud of the person you're becoming. You've already shown so much strength, and I believe in you. I believe in your ability to succeed, no matter where that takes you." Anna blinked back the tears that threatened to well up in her eyes. She had never been told anything like that before. It was hard to believe, hard to accept that someone truly believed in her. But in that moment, something inside her shifted. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could step into a future where she wasn't defined by her past. Later that week, the billionaire took Anna to visit a few universities in the city. As they toured the campuses, Anna found herself captivated by the energy, the sense of possibility that hung in the air. The students she met seemed so confident, so sure of where they were going. It was a world so different from the one she had known, a world where the future felt wide open. She was nervous at first, unsure of what to say, unsure of where she belonged in this world of privilege and opportunity. But the billionaire encouraged her to ask questions, to engage with the students and professors, to explore the possibilities. "You belong here just as much as anyone else," he told her. "You have every right to be in a place like this, to have the same opportunities." Anna slowly began to feel the weight of those words. She had never imagined herself at a university, much less walking through the halls, interacting with students who seemed so far removed from the life she had known. But with each step, with each conversation, she felt a little more confident, a little more at home. By the end of the day, Anna was exhausted but exhilarated. She had seen what was possible, and for the first time, she could imagine herself as part of that world. The billionaire drove her back to the mansion, the city lights twinkling in the distance. As they sat in the quiet of the car, Anna turned to him, her heart full. "I never thought this would be possible," she said, her voice soft but full of wonder. "I never thought I could have a future like this." The billionaire smiled, his eyes soft with affection. "It's all possible, Anna," he said. "You've always had the potential. You just needed someone to help you see it." Anna smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. She wasn't afraid of the unknown, because now, she knew that no matter what, she had the support she needed to face it. She wasn't alone anymore, and that thought, more than anything, gave her the strength to embrace whatever came next. As the months passed, Anna's life continued to change in ways she never imagined. Her days were filled with new experiences: school, tutoring, visits to the library, and even weekend outings with the billionaire. Each day she felt a little more like a person with a future, not just a survivor. The sense of hope that had been ignited in her was slowly growing into a fire of ambition and possibility. But with that newfound hope came something else, something less tangible but equally powerful. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear that she might not be able to live up to the potential others saw in her. Fear that, despite all the support and kindness the billionaire had shown, she might somehow disappoint him. It was a fear she didn't quite know how to express, even to herself. She still struggled with trusting her own abilities, still held on to the belief that she wasn't deserving of everything that had been given to her. One evening, after a long day of school and a meeting with her tutor, Anna was sitting on the balcony, watching the sunset. The colors of the sky shifted from gold to pink to purple, and the cool evening breeze played with the strands of her hair. The billionaire came out and joined her, his presence comforting and steady, like it always had been. "How was your day?" he asked gently, his tone kind but knowing. Anna hesitated before answering, her fingers tracing the edge of the balcony railing. "It was good," she said, her voice quiet. "But I don't know. I just feel like there's so much I'm supposed to do, like I'm running out of time to figure it all out." The billionaire sat down beside her, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Anna," he said softly, "you're doing just fine. You don't have to have everything figured out right now. The most important thing is that you're trying, that you're moving forward." Anna turned to look at him, her brow furrowed. "But what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if everything I've been given, I can't live up to it?" The billionaire's heart ached at her words. He knew the weight she carried, the fear that plagued her, but he also knew the strength she had inside her, strength she hadn't even fully recognized yet. "Anna, listen to me," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "You are enough. You've always been enough, and you don't have to prove anything to anyone, not to me, not to anyone else. The only thing you need to prove is that you can believe in yourself. That's all I'm asking of you. That's all anyone should ever ask of you." There was a long pause, the only sound the soft rustling of the leaves in the evening breeze. Anna's mind was racing, her thoughts tumbling over one another. She had never been told this before, never been told that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world, that it was okay to let go of the fear of failure. Slowly, she nodded, her shoulders relaxing just a little. "I'll try," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The billionaire smiled, a smile full of understanding and warmth. "That's all I ask," he said. "Just try, and remember, I'm always here. I believe in you, Anna, more than you can imagine." In that moment, Anna felt something shift inside her. It wasn't a complete transformation, and it wasn't a magic fix to all her fears. But it was a start toward believing that she was worthy of everything she had been given, and that she was capable of more than she had ever believed. The next day, Anna woke up with a new sense of purpose. She still had doubts, still had fears, but now she knew she didn't have to carry them alone. And with that realization came a sense of freedom. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had permission to be vulnerable, to admit that she didn't have all the answers, but that it was okay. She could learn, she could grow, and she didn't have to do it alone. Over the next few weeks, Anna continued to excel in school, but more importantly, she began to excel in believing in herself. She stopped doubting her abilities as much, and she started to take chances, asking questions in class, reaching out for help when she needed it, and even participating in extracurricular activities. The billionaire watched her growth with quiet pride. He had seen so many people come and go from his life. But Anna was different. She was a reminder of everything he had taken for granted in his own life: the chance to explore, to make mistakes, to learn, to grow. But more than that, she was a reminder of what truly mattered in life: connection, kindness, and the willingness to embrace both the good and the bad, knowing that no matter what, you are never truly alone. One afternoon, as they sat together in the library, Anna turned to the billionaire, her eyes bright with excitement. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "Maybe I want to study psychology. I want to help people, just like you helped me." The billionaire's heart swelled with pride. "I think that's a wonderful idea," he said, his voice full of encouragement. "You have the heart for it, Anna. and I have no doubt you'll be amazing at it." Anna smiled, her face lighting up as she looked at him. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I don't know where I'd be without you." The billionaire chuckled softly. "You've always had it in you, Anna. You just needed to believe it yourself." In that moment, Anna realized that the journey she had started wasn't just about finding a path to success or happiness. It was about discovering who she truly was, what she was capable of, and how she could make a difference in the world not just for herself, but for others as well. As Anna continued to grow, so did the bond between her and the billionaire. It wasn't just a mentor-mentee relationship anymore. It had become something deeper, something more meaningful. He had watched her transform from a quiet, guarded girl into a young woman filled with promise and ambition. And she had, in turn, begun to see the billionaire not just as a benefactor, but as a true friend, a person who believed in her not because of her potential for success, but because of who she was. As the year drew to a close, Anna had completed her first semester of school with impressive grades, and she was becoming more involved in extracurricular activities. She had even started volunteering at a local community center, helping younger kids with their homework and mentoring those who were struggling, just as she had once struggled. The billionaire had arranged for her to meet with some of the top psychology professors at universities, and she had felt a surge of excitement as they discussed the potential for her future. There was no longer a fear of failure, no longer a voice in the back of her mind telling her she wasn't enough. She was beginning to see that she was capable of more than she had ever dreamed. One evening, as Anna sat in the library of the mansion, reading through a psychology textbook, the billionaire came in with a smile on his face. He had been away on a business trip for a few days, but tonight, he seemed unusually eager. "I have something for you," he said, his voice light with excitement. "Come with me." Anna closed the book and followed him out of the room, curiosity peaking in her chest. They made their way down the long hallway, past the grand staircase, to a private office at the end of the corridor. The billionaire opened the door, revealing a large desk stacked with papers and a wide window overlooking the city skyline. But what caught Anna's eye was the envelope placed on the desk, the words "Scholarship Acceptance" written boldly across it. "What is this?" she asked, her heart pounding in her chest. The billionaire smiled and gestured for her to sit. "Open it," he said. With trembling hands, Anna tore open the envelope, her eyes scanning the contents quickly. Her breath caught as she read the letter, her heart leaping in her chest. It was an acceptance letter, an offer of a full scholarship to a prestigious university's psychology program. I got in?" she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "You did," the billionaire said, his tone full of pride. "They saw what I saw in you, Anna, the potential, the strength, and the heart. This is just the beginning, but it's a big step forward." Anna stared at the letter, still trying to process what was happening. She had never imagined that she would receive an opportunity like this, not in her wildest dreams. She had always felt like she was outside looking in, like the doors of success were closed to people like her. But now, the doors were wide open. The future was hers to shape. "I don't even know what to say," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't have to say anything," the billionaire said gently. "Just know that you've earned this. You've worked hard, and you deserve it." Anna looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't know if I can ever repay you for everything you've done for me." The billionaire sat beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to repay me," he said softly. "I'm not doing this for gratitude. I'm doing this because I believe in you, because I know you can achieve great things. This is your moment, Anna. Don't let fear hold you back anymore." She nodded, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. She was scared, yes, scared of the unknown, scared of the pressure to succeed, but she was also excited, more excited than she had ever been in her life. She had always dreamed of making a difference, of helping others, of using her experiences to help those who had gone through similar struggles. Now, that dream was closer than ever before. As they sat together, the weight of the moment sinking in, Anna realized that the billionaire had not just given her a chance at a new life. He had given her a belief in herself that she had never had before. He had shown her that she was worthy of success, worthy of love, and worthy of a future filled with promise. "I won't let you down," Anna said, her voice filled with determination. I promise. I'm going to do everything I can to make the most of this opportunity. The billionaire smiled, his eyes filled with pride. I know you will, he said. I'm proud of you, Anna, and I'm excited to see where this path takes you. As the night wore on, Anna sat in the office, the scholarship letter in her hands, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid of failing, and she wasn't afraid of the unknown. She was ready to embrace whatever came next. The future was hers, and she was no longer walking alone. She had the support of the billionaire, yes, but more importantly, she now had the belief in herself to carry her forward. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she was ready. She had come so far, and this was just the beginning. The next few months were filled with both excitement and uncertainty for Anna. The scholarship she had received to study psychology was an opportunity she had never dared to dream of, and yet, here she was, on the brink of a new chapter in her life. Her days were now filled with applications, decisions, and preparations for her upcoming move to the university campus. The billionaire, who had been a constant source of support, was there every step of the way, helping her navigate this new world. He made sure she had everything she needed, from advice on managing her finances to helping her prepare for the challenges of university life. Still, Anna felt the weight of her fears. The doubts that had been part of her life for so long, doubts about her worth, her abilities, and her place in the world had not disappeared entirely. Though she now had a bright future ahead of her, she couldn't help but feel like an outsider, unsure if she truly belonged in this world of privilege and opportunity. As the days passed, Anna found herself retreating into her thoughts more and more. She spent long hours in her room, preparing for her studies, but also grappling with the lingering fears that had held her back for so long. One afternoon, as she sat at her desk, reviewing her notes, the billionaire knocked gently on her door before entering. "Anna," he said softly, his voice warm and kind. "How are you doing?" Anna looked up, offering a small smile. "I'm fine," she replied, though she knew her voice didn't quite sound convincing. The billionaire walked over to her desk, his eyes scanning her face with concern. "You know, you don't have to carry this all by yourself," he said. "It's okay to be nervous, to have doubts. What you're doing, it's big. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed." Anna looked down at her hands, her fingers nervously tapping on the desk. I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never been in a place like this before. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if they realize I don't belong?" The billionaire sat down beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Anna," he said, his tone steady and reassuring, "you are more than ready. You have everything you need inside you, and you're not alone in this. You never were, and you never will be. I believe in you, more than you believe in yourself right now." Anna felt a lump form in her throat. The words the billionaire had spoken had always been a source of comfort, but today, they hit her harder than before. She had spent so many years believing that she had to do everything alone, that no one would ever care enough to help her. But now, with the billionaire by her side, she realized just how much support she had and how much she had already overcome. "I don't know if I can do this," Anna whispered. "I want to, but I'm scared." The billionaire gave her a soft smile, his eyes filled with understanding. "Fear is natural, Anna," he said. "Everyone feels it, but you can't let it control you. You've already proven that you're strong, that you can survive. Now, it's time to believe that you can thrive." Anna took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The doubts were still there, still swirling in her mind, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The billionaire's words gave her the strength to confront her fears, to acknowledge that they were a part of her journey, but not the defining factor. "I'll try," Anna said, her voice filled with a quiet determination. "I'll try to believe in myself." The billionaire smiled, his hand giving her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "That's all I ask," he said. "Take it one step at a time. And when you feel overwhelmed, remember that you have people who care about you. You're not alone." The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Anna continued her preparations for university, making plans to move into the dorms and saying goodbye to the mansion that had been her home for so long. The billionaire, as always, was there to help her every step of the way, offering advice, packing help, and emotional support. As the day of her departure approached, Anna felt a mixture of excitement and sadness. She was leaving behind the world she had known, the place where she had found safety and love, but she was also stepping into a world of possibility. It was a chance to truly build her future, to make her mark, and to see where her dreams could take her. On the day she was set to leave, the billionaire stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. "You've come so far, Anna," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've shown more strength and resilience than most people ever will, and now, you're ready for this next step." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've given me more than I ever thought was possible." The billionaire smiled, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "You always had it in you, Anna. I just helped you see it." As she stepped into the car that would take her to the university, Anna took one last look at the mansion behind her. She had come so far from the streets, to a place where she had learned to believe in herself, to a future filled with opportunity. And now, as she drove toward the unknown, she felt ready to embrace the challenges, to chase her dreams, and to make the most of every opportunity that came her way. The road ahead wasn't easy, and there would be obstacles to overcome. But Anna knew one thing for certain. She wasn't alone. She had the belief in herself, and she had the support of those who truly cared. And with that, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The day Anna moved into her new dorm room was filled with a whirlwind of emotions. It was the beginning of a new chapter, but it was also the end of an era. The mansion, which had been her home for so long, was now just a memory, a symbol of her past and how far she had come. As she walked into the dorm, the unfamiliar sights and sounds of college life filled her senses. Students hurried around, their laughter and chatter blending with the hum of the campus. Anna stood in the doorway of her small, yet cozy, dorm room, taking it all in. It was a far cry from the mansion she had called home, but in some strange way, it felt just right. She had a bed, a desk, a window that looked out over the campus, and most importantly, a sense of belonging. Her heart raced with both excitement and fear. This was it. The moment she had dreamed of for so long. She was officially a college student. The thought still seemed surreal. Just a year ago, she had been a young girl on the streets, trying to survive, struggling to find a way out. Now, she was here, on the verge of something great, something she had never imagined possible. She sat down on the bed, her eyes scanning the room. The walls were bare, the shelves empty, but she could already feel the possibilities in the air. She could fill the space with new memories, new experiences. She could build her future here. As she unpacked her things, Anna couldn't help but think about the billionaire, who had been the guiding force behind all of this. He had believed in her when no one else did. He had given her the chance to start over, to create a life that was hers to build. And now, as she stood on the precipice of her future, she knew she couldn't let him down. The billionaire's words echoed in her mind. "You've always had it in you, Anna. I just helped you see it." She had come so far, and she wasn't about to stop now. It wasn't just about getting an education. It was about proving to herself that she was worthy of this opportunity, that she could make a difference, not just in her life, but in the lives of others as well. As Anna unpacked the last of her things, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. The fear was still there, but it was no longer the overwhelming force it had once been. Now, it was a quiet reminder of how much she had already overcome. She was ready for this new chapter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had the tools she needed, the knowledge, the support, and the belief in herself. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she truly belonged. Later that evening, Anna sat in the common area of the dorm, surrounded by other students. It was a casual meet and greet event, a chance to get to know the people she would be spending the next few years with. As she mingled with her peers, she felt the same sense of unease that had always followed her into new situations. She wasn't sure if she fit in, if she had anything in common with these students who seemed so confident and at ease. But then, as the conversation turned to their plans for the future, something inside Anna clicked. She realized that she did have something to offer. She had her story, her experiences, and her unique perspective, and that was worth sharing. As the night went on, Anna found herself laughing and talking with a group of students who had similar interests. They discussed their goals, their passions, and the struggles they had overcome. It was the first time in a long time that Anna felt truly understood, truly seen. She wasn't just a charity case anymore. She was a person with her own dreams, her own strengths, and her own path to follow. The next few weeks were a blur of new experiences. Anna attended classes, made new friends, and slowly began to settle into the rhythm of university life. There were challenges, of course, moments when she doubted herself, when she felt out of place. But those moments were fewer and farther between, and with each passing day, Anna felt more confident in her ability to navigate this new world. As the semester went on, Anna began to realize something else, something that had never occurred to her before. She was not just here for herself. She was here for the younger version of herself, the version that had struggled and fought and wondered if she would ever get out of the cycle of poverty and pain. And by being here, by pursuing her education, she was proving to herself and to others that it was possible to break free, to rise above. One evening, as Anna sat in the quiet of her dorm room, her textbook spread out before her, she reflected on how far she had come. The path ahead was still long. But for the first time in her life, she felt like it was hers to walk. She wasn't defined by her past. She wasn't defined by where she had come from. She was defined by who she chose to become. And she was choosing to be someone who would make a difference. A knock on the door broke her thoughts. She opened it to find a package, an envelope with her name written on it in neat handwriting. She opened it to find a letter from the billionaire, just as he had promised. "I'm proud of you, Anna. You've come a long way, and I know this is only the beginning. Keep believing in yourself, and you will go far. You have my unwavering support, and I will always be here for you. Remember, this is your time. Make the most of it." As Anna read the letter, she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She was not alone. She had a family now, a family that wasn't bound by blood, but by trust, respect, and love. And with that, Anna knew she was ready for whatever came next. She was no longer afraid. She had found her place in the world, and nothing could take that away from her. The months continued to pass, and Anna found herself becoming more and more comfortable with her new life. University was everything she had hoped for and more. She was excelling in her courses, finding new friendships, and beginning to truly enjoy the freedom and possibility that education brought. The doubts that had once clouded her mind were now slowly fading away, replaced by confidence and determination. She was still adjusting to her new routine, still learning how to balance everything, but she was no longer afraid. Her once guarded nature had softened. Anna had learned to trust herself and those around her, something she had never thought possible. But as much as she had embraced this new life, there were still moments when the weight of her past crept in, moments when she felt the ghosts of the life she had left behind, the life of uncertainty and struggle. It was one of those moments that came on a quiet evening in late fall. Anna was sitting in the library, reviewing her notes for an upcoming exam when her phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from the billionaire. "Are you free to talk?" Her heart skipped a beat. It wasn't unusual for him to check in, but there was something in the way the message was worded that made her pause. She quickly replied, "Of course. What's up?" The reply came almost immediately. "I need you to meet me. Something important." Anna's curiosity piqued. She closed her textbooks and made her way to the small cafe on campus where they had agreed to meet. The walk felt longer than usual, the crisp air biting at her skin. As she approached the cafe, she saw the billionaire sitting at a corner table, his face serious, his posture straight. He was staring into his coffee cup, as though deep in thought. Anna walked over and sat down across from him, her heart beating just a little faster. "What's going on?" she asked softly, her voice filled with concern. The billionaire looked up, his eyes meeting hers. There was a hint of hesitation in his gaze, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Anna, I have something to tell you. It's about your past. There's something you need to know." The air around them seemed to still, the noise of the cafe fading into the background. Anna's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The billionaire took a deep breath, his eyes not leaving hers. "I've been working with some people to look into your family history, to see if there's anything that can help you. And I found something you should know." Anna felt a chill run down her spine. Her past was a subject she had avoided for so long, something she had buried deep inside. She wasn't ready to confront it again. "I don't understand. she said, her voice shaking. Why would you do that? I don't need to know about my past. It's not important anymore. The billionaire's expression softened, and he reached across the table to gently take her hand in his. Anna, he said quietly, you don't have to face your past alone anymore. You're stronger than you think, and I believe that knowing the truth, no matter how painful, will help you heal. It's not about digging up old wounds. It's about giving you the answers you've never had. Anna pulled her hand back slowly, her mind racing. What did you find? She asked, her voice barely audible. The billionaire paused for a moment, as though carefully choosing his words. I found out that your mother wasn't just a woman who struggled. She was someone who made a huge impact on the people around her, especially the community. She was known for her kindness, her strength, and her ability to help others, even when she had so little herself. Anna's chest tightened. What does that have to do with me? She asked, her voice filled with confusion and fear. It means you come from a line of strength, Anna, the billionaire said, his voice full of compassion. Your mother, your family, they weren't just survivors. They were people who made a difference, people who cared, and you carry that legacy within you. Anna's mind swirled with emotions. She had always seen her past as a burden, a weight that had held her back. But now, the story was shifting. Her mother, the woman she had lost so long ago, wasn't just a symbol of hardship. She was a woman of impact, someone who had changed lives in ways Anna had never known. She felt a mixture of sadness and pride. I never knew, Anna whispered, her voice trembling. I never knew any of this. I know, the billionaire said gently. But now you do, and you have every right to be proud of where you come from, proud of the strength that runs in your blood. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken words. Anna had always felt disconnected from her family, from her past. She had always wondered why her life had been so difficult, why she had been dealt the hand she was given. But now, she understood. Her past wasn't just something to escape, it was something to embrace. She wasn't defined by the hardships she had faced, but by the strength she had inherited. What do I do with this? She asked, her voice shaky but determined. How do I move forward with this knowledge? The billionaire smiled softly, his eyes filled with encouragement. You take it with you, Anna, he said. You carry it into your future, and you let it remind you of the incredible person you are. You've always had this strength inside of you, and now you know where it came from. Anna sat back in her chair, the weight of the conversation settling in. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. The truth had come, and it wasn't something to fear, it was something to celebrate. She had come so far, and now, with this knowledge of her past, she knew she was ready for whatever came next. The future was still uncertain, but it no longer seemed impossible. With a deep breath, Anna looked at the billionaire, a sense of gratitude filling her heart. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything. The billionaire nodded, his smile warm and reassuring. You're welcome, Anna. You've earned it. And in that moment, Anna knew that her journey was just beginning. She wasn't running from her past anymore. She was moving forward, with strength, with purpose, and with the knowledge that she had everything she needed to succeed. The days after the conversation with the billionaire were filled with reflection for Anna. She had always carried the weight of her past, thinking that it defined her, but now, as she processed the truth about her mother's legacy, something shifted inside her. The past she had tried to escape wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was something to be proud of. She now understood that the strength she had always carried came from a lineage of resilient, compassionate people who had never given up, no matter the circumstances. But the weight of this newfound knowledge was not light. It was powerful, and at times, overwhelming. Anna spent hours contemplating what the billionaire had said. She wasn't defined by hardship. She was defined by the strength she had inherited and the choices she made moving forward. The knowledge that her mother had been a beacon of hope for others, someone who had used her limited resources to help the community, made Anna want to honor that legacy. She felt like she had a responsibility now, not just to herself, but to those who had come before her. One evening, as she sat in her dorm room, staring out the window at the lights of the campus, Anna's phone buzzed. It was a message from the billionaire. I'm proud of you, Anna. I know you're processing a lot right now, but I want you to know I'm here for you, and I believe in you more than ever. A smile spread across Anna's face as she read the message. The billionaire had been more than just a benefactor. He had become a true mentor, someone who had seen potential in her when no one else had. She could feel his belief in her, and it gave her the courage to keep moving forward. The next morning, Anna decided to take a step she had been hesitating on. She signed up for a volunteer program at a local community center, where she could begin giving back to others in the way her mother had. The thought of helping those who had been through similar struggles brought a sense of peace to Anna's heart. It felt right. As the weeks passed, Anna found herself immersed in her classes, her volunteer work, and the friendships she had begun to build. She was no longer a passive participant in her life, just floating along. She was taking charge, carving out her own path. And though there were moments when the old fears crept in, the doubts, the insecurities, Anna reminded herself that she was not alone in this journey. She had support. She had people who believed in her, and she had learned to believe in herself. The day came when Anna had to make a difficult decision. The university had offered her a chance to attend an international psychology conference, a dream opportunity that would allow her to connect with some of the brightest minds in her field. It was an opportunity she had dreamed of, but it meant leaving campus for a few weeks. And more than that, it meant stepping into a world she wasn't entirely sure she belonged in. It felt like the next big test. Could she handle it? Could she truly belong in this new world, this world of scholars, experts, and professionals? As she stood in her dorm room, looking at the invitation, Anna felt a familiar wave of doubt wash over her. But this time, it was different. She had learned to face her fears, not run from them. She knew she had earned this opportunity. She had put in the work. She had proven that she belonged. With a deep breath, Anna made the decision. She would go. She would take this opportunity, and she would do everything she could to make the most of it. When she told the billionaire, he smiled with pride. "I knew you'd make the right choice," he said. "This is just another step toward your future, Anna. You're ready for this. Don't let doubt stop you." As Anna prepared for the conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. She had started as a girl who believed she wasn't good enough, who thought she was destined for a life of struggle. But now, she was a young woman on the verge of something great, someone with purpose, drive, and the belief that she could make a real difference in the world. The journey had not been easy. There had been moments of doubt, moments when she thought she might not make it. But she had persevered. She had fought for herself, for her future. And now, as she boarded the plane to the conference, she knew that this was just the beginning. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the next chapter. The conference was everything Anna had hoped for and more. She met so many brilliant, passionate people, and the discussions, the lectures, and the workshops all left her feeling inspired and energized. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was truly in the right place. She was surrounded by people who shared her passion for psychology, for understanding the human mind, and for helping others. By the end of the conference, Anna had made connections that would help her for years to come. But more importantly, she had learned something about herself. She belonged here. She had earned her place among these scholars, and her journey was far from over. As the conference ended and Anna returned to campus, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had taken another step forward, and she was more confident than ever that her future was in her hands. She was ready to take on whatever came next, knowing that with the support of those who cared about her and the strength within herself, she could face anything. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, Anna felt ready to embrace it fully, knowing that her past, her struggles, and her victories had all led her to this moment. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. The days following Anna's return from the psychology conference were a whirlwind of new opportunities and challenges. She had returned to campus energized, her confidence bolstered by the success of the trip. The connections she had made with other students and professionals in the field were invaluable, and she felt more certain than ever that psychology was her true calling. The billionaire had been right all along. She had belonged at that conference, and now, she could see a clear path ahead of her. But with that newfound confidence came a new set of challenges. Anna was no longer just a student trying to find her place in the world. She was becoming someone who could make a difference, someone with the potential to change lives. The weight of those expectations, both from others and from within herself, sometimes felt overwhelming. The pressure to succeed, To prove that she was worthy of all the opportunities that had been given to her began to weigh heavily on her shoulders. But with every challenge, Anna remembered the lessons she had learned, the lessons about believing in herself, about embracing the strength that ran through her blood, and about never being afraid to ask for help when she needed it. One afternoon, as she sat in the library, studying for an upcoming exam, her phone buzzed. It was a message from the billionaire. "I'm proud of you, Anna. I know you're working hard. And I just wanted to remind you that I'm always here if you need anything. Don't forget to take care of yourself, too." Anna smiled as she read the message, her heart warming. The billionaire's support had been unwavering, and even though she was now far from the mansion where she had first started her journey, she still felt his presence in her life. He had become a constant reminder that she was capable, that she was never truly alone. But there were still moments when the old fears crept in, the doubts that she wasn't good enough, that she wasn't worthy of the life she was building. It was during one of those moments that Anna decided to reach out. She picked up her phone and texted the billionaire. "I'm doing okay, but sometimes I still feel like I'm carrying so much weight. I'm scared I won't be able to live up to everything everyone believes in me." Almost instantly, the response came. "You don't have to live up to anyone's expectations but your own, Anna. You've already proven more than enough. You're doing incredible things, and I believe in you more than you know. Just keep taking it one step at a time. You've got this." Reading his words, Anna felt a sense of relief wash over her. The pressure to be perfect, to live up to some ideal, had been lifted, even if just a little. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone except herself, and she had already proven that she could overcome anything life threw her way. With each passing day, Anna became more focused, more determined. She was taking better care of herself, both mentally and physically, finding a balance between her studies, volunteer work, and personal life. The days were busy, but they were fulfilling. She had friends now, real friends, people who didn't just see her as a charity case or a project, but as an individual, someone with her own thoughts, ideas, and dreams. As winter approached, Anna received an invitation to speak at a student-led event about overcoming adversity. The event was part of a larger conference aimed at providing support and resources for students facing challenges, both academic and personal. The thought of speaking in front of a crowd made Anna nervous, but there was also a spark of excitement. This was her chance to share her story, to show others that no matter where they came from, they could overcome obstacles and succeed. She hesitated at first, unsure if she was ready to be that vulnerable, but then she remembered everything she had learned in the past year. She had come so far, and if her story could inspire just one person, it would be worth it. The night of the event, Anna stood backstage, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the murmurs of the crowd, feel the energy in the room, and for a moment, she felt small. But then she took a deep breath and reminded herself that she was ready. She was ready to share her journey, to speak her truth. As she walked onto the stage, the lights in the auditorium dimmed, and a hush fell over the crowd. Anna stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces. For a moment, she felt the familiar pang of fear, the old doubts trying to resurface, but she took another breath and spoke. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady but soft. "My name is Anna, and I want to share my story with you tonight, not because I'm special, but because I believe that if I can do it, anyone can." She paused, allowing her words to settle in the room. "I used to think that the life I had was the only life I was going to get. I thought I was destined to struggle forever, that there was no way out, but I was wrong. You see, sometimes the hardest thing is not facing the challenges in front of you. It's believing that you're worthy of something better." As she spoke, Anna saw the faces in the crowd shift. She saw the nods of understanding, the eyes that recognized something in her, something they had felt too. She continued, sharing her journey from the streets, to the mansion, to the university. She spoke of the billionaire's unwavering belief in her, of the moments when she had wanted to give up, but chose to keep going. By the end of her speech, Anna was no longer the scared, uncertain girl she had been when she first started this journey. She was someone who had taken control of her future, who had embraced her past, and who knew, without a doubt, that she had the power to shape her own destiny. The applause that followed her speech was loud and heartfelt. Anna stood there for a moment, taking it all in. It wasn't about the applause. It wasn't about being recognized. It was about knowing that she had shared her story, and that it had touched someone in the room. As she left the stage, she felt a wave of peace settle over her. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a storyteller, an advocate, and a living testament to the power of believing in yourself. The road ahead was still long, but Anna knew she had the strength to walk it. With the support of the people who cared about her, and the belief in herself that had finally taken root, she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. She had come so far, and the future was hers to shape. As the semester progressed, Anna's life seemed to fall into a rhythm. Her days were filled with classes, study sessions, and volunteer work, while her nights were spent catching up on homework and reflecting on the lessons she had learned. She had found her place in the university, and for the first time, she felt like she truly belonged. However, despite all the positive changes in her life, there were moments when Anna couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she was still not doing enough. The pressure to succeed, to live up to the expectations placed on her, seemed to weigh on her more as the weeks passed. She wanted to do well, not just for herself, but for the people who had believed in her. The billionaire, in particular, had shown unwavering faith in her. It was that faith that drove her to push herself harder, to never settle for mediocrity, even when she felt exhausted. One afternoon, as Anna sat in the library, surrounded by piles of textbooks and notes, her phone buzzed with a message from the billionaire. "I'm proud of everything you've accomplished, Anna. But remember, you don't have to carry this weight alone. Take a break when you need it. I'm always here for you." Anna smiled softly as she read his words. She knew he meant every word, but there was still a part of her that couldn't let go of the feeling that she needed to prove herself. She was determined to succeed on her own terms, but she didn't always know how to balance that with the reality of being human, the need to rest, to recharge, and to let go of the constant pressure. Later that evening, Anna decided to take the billionaire's advice and step away from her studies for a while. She needed to clear her head. She grabbed her jacket and went for a walk around campus, letting the cool evening air refresh her. As she strolled through the quiet paths, she reflected on everything she had accomplished so far. She had come so far from the scared girl who had first arrived at the university, unsure of her place in the world. She had learned to trust herself, to embrace her strengths, and to open herself up to the possibility of a future filled with opportunity. But even now, she couldn't escape the nagging feeling that she wasn't enough. She wasn't doing enough. As Anna walked past the student center, she saw a group of students gathered outside, laughing and talking. It was the same group she had met at the beginning of the semester, the ones who had welcomed her into their circle. They were planning a charity event, something Anna had always wanted to be a part of but hadn't been able to find the time for. It was a cause close to her heart, helping underprivileged children receive the education they deserved. Seeing them reminded her of why she had come to the university in the first place, not just to get a degree, but to make a difference in the world. She had always wanted to give back, to help others who had been in her shoes. But somewhere along the way, in her pursuit of perfection, she had lost sight of that purpose. She had focused too much on the weight of her own expectations, on the idea that she had to achieve something monumental to matter. She had forgotten that sometimes, the small acts of kindness, the everyday efforts to help others, were just as important. Without thinking, Anna walked over to the group and joined them. They welcomed her with open arms, and soon she found herself brainstorming ideas for the event, offering her thoughts and suggestions. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of ease. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She was simply being herself, doing what she loved. The following weeks were filled with more of these moments, Anna finding balance between her studies and her desire to help others. She threw herself into the charity event, working alongside her friends and peers, and the event turned out to be a huge success. The feeling of helping others, of giving back to the community, reignited a spark in her that she had almost forgotten existed. The sense of fulfillment she felt from those small acts of service was just as important, if not more so, than her academic achievements. One afternoon, as she sat in the student center, talking with her friends about the success of the event, Anna received a message from the billionaire. "I heard about the charity event. You're making a difference, Anna. You've come so far, and I'm proud of you. Just remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Take your time and enjoy the journey." Anna paused as she read the message. It was just what she needed to hear. The billionaire's constant support and encouragement had helped her become the person she was today. But now, it was time for Anna to realize something she had overlooked for so long. She didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. She could take it one step at a time. She didn't have to prove anything to anyone. She had already proven everything she needed to herself. With that realization, Anna felt a sense of peace settle in her heart. She was no longer afraid of the future. She wasn't rushing to accomplish everything all at once. Instead, she was learning to embrace the journey, to take pride in the small victories, and to celebrate the moments that truly mattered. Her purpose was clear now. It wasn't just about success or recognition. It was about making a difference, helping others, and living a life that felt authentic to who she truly was. As Anna walked back to her dorm that evening, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She wasn't defined by her past, by the expectations of others, or by the pressure to succeed. She was defined by the choices she made, by the kindness she showed, and by the strength she carried within her. And with that newfound clarity, she knew that the future was hers to create, step by step. As the winter semester drew to a close, Anna found herself at a crossroads. She had come so far since the first day she stepped onto the university campus, unsure of herself and her future. Now, she was a confident young woman with a purpose, someone who had discovered her passion for psychology and made a real impact on the lives of others through her volunteer work. Her academic journey was flourishing, and she was building meaningful connections with people who truly understood her. Yet, despite all the progress, there was still a feeling of unease lingering in the back of her mind. The road she had walked had not been without its challenges, and as much as she had accomplished, Anna couldn't help but feel like something was missing. She had learned to balance her studies, her volunteer work, and her personal life, but she still didn't feel fully fulfilled. She had made so many strides toward healing, but the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough, still haunted her. The message from the billionaire was a constant reminder of how far she had come, but it also served as a reminder of the responsibility she felt to prove herself. She was grateful for his unwavering belief in her, but she also felt the weight of living up to those expectations. One chilly afternoon, Anna sat by the campus lake, wrapped in her jacket, watching the ripples of the water. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue across the landscape. As peaceful as it was, Anna's mind was restless. She had reached a point in her journey where she realized that while she had learned so much about her strengths and abilities, there was still one thing she needed to figure out: who she was beyond all the expectations. She had spent so much time trying to meet the needs of others and striving to live up to the image of someone who was always strong, always perfect. But now, sitting by the lake, Anna realized that she had never really given herself the space to figure out who she was on her own terms. Her past, her struggles, her accomplishments, none of them fully defined her. She was more than the sum of her experiences. She was allowed to be human. She was allowed to grow, make mistakes, and not have all the answers. This was the moment of clarity she needed. Anna closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. She had spent so long trying to be everything for everyone else that she had forgotten to be everything for herself. The path forward was clear now. It wasn't about living up to anyone else's expectations. It was about discovering who she wanted to become, about defining success in her own terms. That evening, as she sat in her dorm room, Anna pulled out her journal, something she hadn't done in months. She began to write, pouring out her thoughts and feelings onto the pages, untangling the emotions that had been weighing on her heart. She wrote about her journey, about the lessons she had learned, and about the people who had helped her along the way. But most importantly, she wrote about herself, who she was now, and who she wanted to become. By the time she finished, Anna felt lighter. She had written down the fears and doubts that had held her back, and in doing so, she had released them. She was no longer trying to be perfect. She was allowing herself the freedom to grow and to explore the possibilities of who she could be. The next day, she called the billionaire. The conversation was comforting, as always, but it was also an opportunity for Anna to share her thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot," Anna said as she spoke to him on the phone, "about everything, about my past, my future, the expectations, and how I want to move forward." "What have you concluded?" the billionaire asked, his voice gentle. I think I've spent so much time trying to be everything I thought I was supposed to be, she replied. Trying to prove that I'm capable, that I'm worthy. But I've realized that I don't have to live up to anyone's expectations. I just have to be me. The billionaire was silent for a moment, as if letting her words settle in. Anna, I'm proud of you, he finally said. That's exactly what I've been hoping you would realize. You've always been enough. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Anna smiled, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that I don't have to carry all this weight, that I can still be me, even when I'm still figuring things out. Of course you can, he said. You're not alone in this. You never were, and you don't have to have all the answers right now. Life is about taking it one step at a time, and I know you're on the right path. With those words, Anna felt something inside her shift. The fear that had been holding her back began to dissolve. She no longer felt like she had to rush or force herself to be perfect. She was on her own journey, and it was okay to take it one step at a time. Over the next few weeks, Anna began to embrace her newfound sense of freedom. She still had her goals, her dreams, but now she approached them with a sense of calm. She no longer felt overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed. She knew that no matter what happened, she was capable of handling it. She was in control of her future, and that knowledge gave her the strength to keep moving forward. As the semester came to an end, Anna took the time to reflect on everything she had accomplished. She had not only excelled academically, but she had also learned the importance of self-compassion, of letting go of the need to be perfect. She had learned to value herself for who she was, not for what she could do. And as she stood at the threshold of the next phase of her journey, Anna knew that she was ready to embrace whatever came her way, ready to keep growing, and ready to be the person she was always meant to be. The future was hers, and for the first time, she felt truly ready to step into it, one step at a time. As the spring semester began, Anna felt a new sense of purpose. The weight that had once held her back, the fear of failure and the pressure to be perfect, had lifted. She had learned to embrace the journey, to accept that she didn't need to have everything figured out. She was now focused on the present moment, on what she could do today, not on the pressure of what was yet to come. This mindset allowed her to fully immerse herself in her studies and volunteer work. She found herself more engaged in her psychology classes, absorbing knowledge with an enthusiasm she hadn't felt before. The topics that once seemed daunting now fascinated her, and she began to realize how much she truly loved the field. Outside of her academic life, Anna had also become more active in her community. She was volunteering at local shelters and working with organizations that focused on education and mental health issues that had touched her deeply. Helping others, especially young people who had faced similar struggles, gave her a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced before. For the first time, Anna felt like she was not just moving through life, but truly living it. She was living with purpose, with intention. One day, after a long afternoon of classes and meetings, Anna sat down on a bench in the campus courtyard, enjoying the warm spring sunshine. As she sat there, she felt a sense of peace that she hadn't known in years. The uncertainties that had plagued her during her first days on campus were gone. She had found her rhythm, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged. The quiet, contented feeling was interrupted by a familiar voice calling her name. She turned to see one of her classmates, a young woman named Maya, walking toward her. Maya had become one of Anna's closest friends, and they had spent many hours studying together and discussing everything from class projects to personal aspirations. "Hey, Anna," Maya said, sitting down next to her on the bench. "How's everything going? You seem so much more relaxed lately." Anna smiled, her eyes lighting up. "It's going really well, actually," she said. "I've just been focusing on what I can control and not worrying so much about the future." Maya nodded, clearly understanding. "That's awesome. You've come such a long way." Anna felt a warmth spread through her at Maya's words. It was true, she had come a long way, and the progress she had made was something to be proud of. "Thanks," Anna said quietly. "It hasn't been easy, but I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that it's okay not to have everything figured out. It's okay to take things one step at a time." Maya smiled and nudged her playfully. You're a lot wiser than you give yourself credit for." Anna laughed, feeling the genuine affection in Maya's words. "I think I'm finally starting to believe that." As they sat together, chatting about their plans for the future, Anna couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude. She had come so far from the scared, uncertain girl who had first arrived at the university, unsure of where she belonged. She had grown, not just in her academic pursuits but also in her personal life. The people she had met, Maya, her professors, the volunteers she worked with, had become her support system. She wasn't alone anymore. The thought of the billionaire and the unwavering support he had shown her still brought a smile to her face. He had been a constant presence in her life, helping her when she needed it most, and believing in her even when she didn't believe in herself. But now, Anna had begun to realize that her own belief in herself was the most important thing. She had spent so long relying on the validation of others, but now, she knew that her worth wasn't determined by anyone else. It was determined by her own actions and her own belief in herself. As the semester continued, Anna became more involved in campus activities. She joined a student group focused on mental health awareness, using her experiences to help others who were struggling. She became a peer mentor, offering support to first-year students who were facing the same challenges she had faced when she first arrived. Anna knew that the road ahead was still long, but she felt more prepared than ever. She had a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, and most importantly, she had a sense of self-worth that no one could take away from her. One evening, as Anna was leaving the student center after a meeting, she received a message from the billionaire. It simply read, "I'm so proud of you, Anna. Keep going." Her heart swelled as she read the words. The billionaire had always been there for her, and his encouragement had meant the world to her. But now, she realized that she no longer needed constant reassurance. She had become the person she had always hoped to be, someone who believed in herself and was confident in her abilities. The following week, Anna received another message from the billionaire. This time, it was a bit more personal. "I've been thinking about how far you've come, and I just want you to know that you've made an impact on so many people. You've helped so many people by just being yourself. I know you've faced challenges, but I have no doubt that you'll keep inspiring others." Anna felt tears welling up in her eyes as she read the message. It wasn't about the accolades or the recognition. It was about the impact she had made on others, the way she had used her experiences to make a difference. She had found her voice, and it was powerful. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, Anna didn't feel afraid. She felt empowered. She knew that whatever came next, she was ready for it. She had the tools, the support, and the strength to navigate whatever life had in store. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. And as she looked toward the future, Anna felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey she had been on. She had come so far, and there was still so much more to learn and experience. The road ahead was full of possibilities, and she was excited to see where it would take her. As Anna continued her journey through university, she felt more confident in her place than ever before. Her life had become a balance of studies, volunteering, and personal growth. Her friendships had deepened, and the sense of purpose she had found in her academic path was now complemented by a deep sense of fulfillment in the work she did for her community. The spring semester had flown by in a blur of new experiences, but as summer approached, Anna knew that her journey was far from over. One evening, as she walked across campus after a meeting with her psychology professor, she felt the weight of all her progress sink in. She had learned so much about herself in the past few months, but there was still one thing that weighed heavily on her heart: her future. Anna had begun to envision a life where she wasn't just a student, but someone who made a lasting impact on the world. She was ready to take everything she had learned and use it to help others, especially those who had faced the same hardships she once had. The thought of working with at-risk youth or underserved communities, helping them navigate their own struggles, filled her with excitement. She had always wanted to make a difference. But now, she truly felt like she had the tools to do so. However, the fear of the unknown still lingered. The pressure to succeed and to make something meaningful of her life sometimes felt overwhelming. There were moments when she wondered if she was ready to take on such a responsibility. Could she really be the person she wanted to be? Could she truly help others when she had spent so much of her life feeling like she was the one who needed help? As she made her way back to her dorm, Anna's phone buzzed with a message. It was from the billionaire. "I've been thinking about you, Anna," the message read. "You've made so much progress, and I can see how far you've come. But remember, you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You're doing incredible things, and you'll continue to grow. Just keep moving forward at your own pace. You have everything you need inside of you." Anna smiled as she read his words. She had come to rely on his support, and it always seemed to come at just the right time. The reassurance he offered, without pushing her too hard, had been instrumental in her growth. But now, as she thought about her future, Anna realized something important. It was time to trust herself. She didn't need to have all the answers today, and she didn't have to follow a set path that others expected of her. Her journey was her own, and she was allowed to take it at her own pace. With that realization, the knot in her stomach loosened. She didn't have to know exactly where she was going, as long as she knew she was moving in the right direction. Over the next few weeks, Anna focused more on her personal growth. She continued her volunteer work, helping young people navigate their own struggles, and worked hard on her studies. But she also made time for herself, something she had often neglected in the past. She took long walks in the park, read books that inspired her, and allowed herself moments of peace to simply be. Anna realized that it wasn't just about achieving goals or meeting expectations, it was about being present in the moment and finding joy in the process. As the summer break began, Anna took a trip back to the city she had come from. She had promised herself that once she felt ready, she would return to the neighborhood where she had grown up to reconnect with her roots. Walking through the familiar streets, Anna was overwhelmed with emotion. She had spent so many years trying to escape this place, convinced that it was a symbol of everything that had held her back. But now, as she walked through the same streets, she saw them in a new light. She saw them not as a prison, but as the foundation of everything she had become. The struggles she had faced had shaped her into the person she was today. She didn't need to escape it. She needed to embrace it. As Anna walked, she noticed a group of children playing on the corner, their laughter filling the air. She walked up to them, and after a few moments of talking, they invited her to join their game. For the first time, Anna felt like she belonged not just in the world she had created for herself, but in the world she had come from. After spending time with the kids, Anna sat on a bench nearby, watching them play. She thought about everything she had learned. The road to where she was had been long and full of challenges, but it had also been full of moments of growth and realization. She had found strength within herself, but she had also learned the importance of leaning on others for support. The billionaire's belief in her had given her the confidence to believe in herself, but it was her own determination that had carried her this far. Anna knew that the road ahead was still uncertain. There were still challenges to face, and there would always be moments of doubt, but she no longer felt afraid. She felt empowered. She had come a long way from the girl who had once believed she wasn't worthy of a better life. Now, she knew that she was capable of achieving anything she set her mind to. As the sun began to set, Anna made a promise to herself. She would continue to grow, to learn, and to help others along the way. She would use her experiences to make a difference in the world, no matter how small the impact seemed. The journey was far from over, but Anna was no longer afraid to take the next step. She was ready for whatever came next. As Anna sat on that familiar bench, watching the children play in the fading sunlight, a deep sense of peace settled within her. She had come full circle from the young girl who once felt lost and alone in the world to the woman she was now, confident, compassionate, and determined to make a difference. The path she had taken had not been easy, but it had shaped her into someone who understood that true growth came not from perfection but from embracing the journey, from learning, from failing, and from rising again. She knew that the challenges weren't over, but for the first time, she felt like she had everything she needed to face whatever came next. As the evening grew darker, Anna stood up from the bench, feeling the weight of the moment. She had returned to her roots, but she was no longer defined by them. She had carved out her own future, but the lessons from her past of struggle, resilience, and hope would always be a part of her. She walked back through the streets, now with a new sense of appreciation. The place she had once wanted to escape was now a place she could walk through with pride. She wasn't running away from it anymore. She had faced it, embraced it, and found her strength within it. The lessons she had learned here about survival, about compassion, about strength, were now the foundation upon which she would build the rest of her life. The days that followed were filled with reflection, growth, and the excitement of new possibilities. Anna continued to work hard at school, building on the momentum she had gained. She had found a sense of balance, where she was no longer driven by fear or insecurity, but by the desire to make an impact. She was not just pursuing her own dreams but also helping others along the way. Her work with the local community, particularly with children who faced challenges similar to those she had overcome, gave her a sense of purpose that filled her heart with fulfillment. One afternoon, as she sat in a community meeting, listening to the stories of young people who had faced unimaginable struggles, Anna realized something profound. Her journey had not been just about her own healing, but about helping others heal as well. She had learned that the power to overcome adversity wasn't something that belonged to just one person, it was something that could be shared, something that could lift entire communities. In that moment, Anna understood the true meaning of impact. It wasn't about grand gestures or big achievements. It was about the small, everyday actions that made a difference in someone's life. It was about showing up, offering support, and giving others the strength to believe in themselves, just as the billionaire had done for her. As the months passed, Anna continued to grow. She graduated from university with honors, a degree in psychology, and the beginning of a bright future ahead. The day of her graduation, as she stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of proud faces in the crowd, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the people who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself, for the lessons that had shaped her, and for the journey that had brought her here. But most of all, she was grateful for the person she had become. She was no longer the girl who feared the world, the girl who felt small and insignificant. She was a woman with a vision, a purpose, and a heart full of passion for helping others. After the ceremony, Anna stood outside with her family and friends, feeling the cool breeze on her face. The future stretched out before her, wide and full of promise. She wasn't sure where it would take her, but she knew that no matter what, she was ready. She had faced the darkness of her past, and in doing so, had learned how to find light. She had learned how to rise, how to be kind to herself, and how to help others rise with her. The billionaire's words echoed in her mind. "You've always had it in you, Anna. I just helped you see it." In that moment, Anna realized that she had always had the power to change her life. She had always had the strength within her to shape her own destiny. The billionaire had shown her the way, but it was her own belief in herself that had carried her to this point. As she walked into the next chapter of her life, Anna knew that this was only the beginning. The journey was far from over, but she was no longer afraid. She was no longer searching for validation from others. She had found it in herself. And with that, Anna was ready to face the world, to make her mark, and to continue living a life full of purpose, compassion, and love.